So we are continuing our series, Life Together, backed by popular demand, I guess. You know, I got so many wonderful responses and so many positive responses to this, what we're doing over the last couple of weeks, that just decided, hey, why not run it back, right? That's a popular phrase. Let's run it back. And so we're going to run it back for one more week this week, and then we'll move on from that going forward. But as you guys know, this series really is focused on the stories of some of you in our church family. And that's what we are. We're a church family. We, more than anything, want to impress upon you and upon everybody else that we are a family above everything else. That we are here for one another, as Jim shared. As he exhorted and encouraged each age group in this church family, it's because we value and hold as a high priority the idea that this church, more than anything, it is a group of people that gather together. It is an assembly. It is a congregation. But more importantly, more than ever, we have to understand that we are a family. And families stick together, and families love one another, and families encourage one another and are there for each other and are committed to each other and see others through life and see one another through life together and are there when things are going really well and things are to be celebrated, but are also there when the chips are down and when we're in a valley. And so I felt like what Jim shared this morning was so perfectly aligned with this series about how we are celebrating both the challenges and the celebrations of 2024 for some of our people in our church. And so it's just a wonderful segue to what we were doing this morning. So I hope you enjoyed this final round of interviews as we get to hear from a couple more people in our church family about how their 2024 went. I'm really excited to hear these guys. Each week has been something different. I've never was able to anticipate what was going to be said or shared. But each week, each person, each couple brought something totally different that I think really kind of affected the church body and hopefully encouraged us in some way, even in the difficult times. So without further ado, let's get into our first couple, or our only couple for today. So Julie and Bernie Tajanera, I want to have them come on up. Yeah. So excited to hear what you guys have to share with us today. I'll take that one. I'll grab this one up here. All right, check 1, 2. Oh, awesome. All right, guys. Well, how are you? Good? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah? Bernie.
I come from the wisdom group, so I'm
What's
pretty
that?
sure. I come from the wisdom group, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So good to have you guys here with us. I reached out to Bernie. Well, I reached out to both of you guys, but Bernie was the one that kind of responded and was just like, "Yeah, we'll totally do it." And if you know anything about Bernie and Julie, it's like Bernie's like, "Yeah, let's do it," without thinking, and Julie's like, "Hold on a second, probably, Bernie. Let's talk about this for a minute." But it was too late. You had already said yes, so Julie didn't really have a say in it. But anyway, it's good to have you guys up here with us this morning. And we get to hear a little bit about your 2024, about how things went. First of all, just give us a little background, you know, for some people that might not be so familiar with you guys. Give us some background, family, where you guys are living, jobs, what you do, and stuff like that. So.
We're second rounders, I guess you could say. We're back. I came back 2 years ago. We were here when we were starting our family in the previous groups that Jim had mentioned, much younger and vibrant with kids. We have 2 daughters, Abigail and Sarah, in their 20s. One's working for the Mouse in Florida. The other one's working hard for some psychologist. She got her degree in southeastern in Florida, so she's working there and raising her cat, which is, you could put a crown on him.
You gotta start somewhere. You gotta start raising something, right?
We got grandkitties, so we live we live in New Gloucester, and we're really good friends. Like I said, like with the community. Every time I go to shoots, Bruce will say, "There's my bass player," and I'm just like, "Yeah, what's up, Bruce? Give me a free donut." No, okay, great. Julie and I, we run Royal Academy Education, which is we're teachers and other required assets like vacuuming and other things that need to be done for the school. It's a private school. Yeah, it's internet school. We have a handful of locals, but we do testing, portfolios, and things like that. So we've been teaching there for 10 years. So that keeps us busy and going on that. So yeah. So, and we have 2 cats, Serafina and Nala, who are at home waiting for our arrival. So that, I think, completes the family cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add, Julie? No? Good. All right, so let's get into a couple of the questions. First, we'll start with celebration. What was something in 2024 that you guys were able to celebrate that was something that you could look back on and say, wow, that was really amazing, and that happened this year? And they may be different for each of you, so you don't have to, but yeah.
Well, we celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary,
Woo!
which is awesome. And kind of an unexpected surprise is we were able to go back to our honeymoon spot in Florida, and got to go to Disney for a few days, so that was an unexpected surprise. And the other piece that kind of happened while we were there that was kind of a big victory is about 5 years ago I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and I got the news while we were at Disney, had a meeting with my doctor, and just had that final scan, and even though God definitely healed me in 2020, they like to keep checking, and so I got that final scan, final word that I was cancer-free, so that was kind of a cool thing.
Share for a moment just maybe what that felt like initially when you found out, and maybe kind of how God, I know we're kind of jumping ahead here, but I feel like it's probably a good thing, how God kind of met you in that moment, in those initial phases, and then kind of leading up to now, 5 years later, being still cancer-free.
Okay. I think for me, the news was almost anticlimactic in that I really, and God met me obviously in 2020, and I felt like completely healed me. And so, I've kind of been pushing back a little bit on these repeated scans. So I think even when we got the news, it was a little bit anticlimactic in that we knew that God had healed me. But I mean, the whole story of God's amazing grace and providence with even finding the cancer is probably a whole nother story, but it truly was a miracle that it was found, and when it was, so I think God just from beginning to end just has met us at every turn, and I could definitely say that the church, my church and family, have surrounded us at every moment. In that journey, with prayer and just I even remember the pastor at the time just staying in the waiting room for the whole surgery, interacting with my family and praying, and so I think definitely was just definitely a moment in my life where God's definitely reminded me that He's got me, and so I think for me, the news was a little bit anticlimactic because I'd already kind of just received that. But I don't know about you.
Oh, and just one flashpoint is, in her procedure, long story, really short, she was number 3 for this type of cancer. So they had to use this, if you can see it, a procedure that used to be a minority thing, a gastric bypass kind of thing, to remove some of your stomach. So they used that because she was number 3, her 2 cousins were 1 and 2 as far as the case goes. So they really didn't know what to do. They weren't familiar with it too much. So they just went with the numbers. So, and we, humanistically, we always prepare for the worst case scenario, and the percentages are very small. But God willing, she was best case scenario 5 years later, and it was successful. They had biopsied it and everything went well through the procedure as we walked through that valley kind of thing. So, God had a hand in it, even in the concerned times, the worst times.
I did find out this year, which is really interesting, that I broke pathology at Maine Med, and I don't know all the details of that, but I was told I broke the pathology department.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take it. Whatever that means. Did you want to share something from 2024 as far as just something to celebrate? Like, was there something else?
Yeah. And it'll segue into kind of our journey here. I snuck in, I want to say about last year. Because I was kind of dry, and it's only concerning myself, not the church I was currently at or the people I was surrounding or anything I was doing. I just found myself being content with discontentment. And one conversation with Julie was, hey, I got to do something different. She's like, why don't you? And at the time, there was a vineyard in Gray. So I was, for some reason, Julie and I in our history have always gone to churches that are like 45 minutes to an hour away. Maybe we like to travel, I don't know, but you got to have really good hot coffee to travel that long. But so I figured I'd break the mold like Julie did with the pathology report. And I'm like, why don't it's 8 minutes away. I'd be home before that or skip out early, whatever. And she goes, well, why don't you kick it up a notch and make it more connective and go back to the vineyard in Westbrook. And I'm like, can I do that? Because systematically, I'm always, high school, college, master's. If you go back, it's a sign of regression or failure. I'm like, I can go back. Yeah, of course you can. So I snuck in, and the first voice I hear is like, no way. And I look, and there's Pastor Chad right there, and he's like, dude, what's up? And like a magnet, people were coming over and saying hi. I couldn't blend as much as I wanted to.
You can't blend.
No,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't happen with this.
No.
This presentation. Yeah.
No.
And so, little by little, it was just so nice. And let me back up a little bit. I was received at the door, and again, at that time when I walked through the door, tired spiritually, not really hoping for much, and I saw Lori Gonder. She looked at me, and it's kind of like the prodigal son coming home, but not sleeping with pigs, just kind of wandering and coming home after, not bringing his jacket and saying, she goes, hey, how you doing? I'm like, what do you got? She goes, we got coffee. You look like I feel. Come on in. Welcome home. And I just like, good. And Chad's just been like, stick to scripture. I heard a familiar vocals and sound, and it was okay to come home. It was okay to go back. And my celebration is just that, to be able to break how you think it's going to go and be received. And then I talked to Chris, and I said, I really, in 2024, want to be genuine. I don't want to put on the happy face and then go home and be, that two-faced thing, that double-minded man. And that whole year, I was coming by myself, and we're going to segue into it, where Julie was finishing things up at our previous church. But for me to come ahead a little bit, to go out and hunt for that next step for us in the caveman fashion, was good for me to have God single me and say, all right, we're going to work this out, and then Julie will soon follow. Yeah. So. Oh, and one other thing. Sorry, I'm really trying.
Go ahead. Go.
Lori had said something of wisdom that I think was to be mentioned and admired. After a while, and like I said, we are going to go full speed into you following after me in the year. She said, after a while, she's like, no, Julie, a few times. I'm like the husband who cried wife. Julie coming? No, not this week. Maybe next week. She goes, well, maybe, and catch this. Maybe you're supposed to just get energized, rejuvenated here, cleansed and refreshed to go back. Now, I'm just going to confess and be vulnerable. Man, it's like it's like being on that good roster and having good groups of people that and you can, and I'm like, I don't want to go back, but I totally appreciate her to go, and that might just be it. That you, instead of just leaving, to go back. And I'm glad God answered that, because she did also pray on the other side of that coin. That she goes, when you came in, she's like, can we keep them? So there was 2 prayers in stereo. But I really admire Lori Gonder saying that to me, that it's not a popularity contest. It's not a social get-together. That she said to me, hey, maybe God just needs to come home and get rejuvenized to go back out to wherever you think God is leading you. And I just want to praise God for her and brag on that, of what she had told me. So.
That's great. So yeah, let's segue into just the challenge. What were some challenges, some struggles that 2024 brought you guys? Give us a little taste of what you guys had to go through in the year. There's multiple things, It's a long year, So it could be all kinds of things. So share with us a couple of those things.
So as I was thinking about this question this week, it seems kind of like a speck compared to what people are going through in California, and kind of perspective. But about this time last year, as I often do, I decided to declutter my closet. And so ended up doing a deep dive and took everything out. And we discovered that when we did that we had a mold epidemic in our closet. And so we took everything out, cleaned, repainted, and threw out lots of stuff from our closet, and then proceeded to find out that, it's everywhere in the house. And so the big challenge, and this was, lasted months, but the big challenge for us was literally going through every room, and it literally affected every piece of furniture needed to be thrown out, thousands of dollars of books, and I love books, precious memorabilia, you name it, there was no prejudice, it just affected everything. And so for me, it felt like this spiritual kind of journey of being able to let go of the past, and just kind of that wrestling with your relationship with stuff, especially that precious memorabilia and that kind of stuff. But in the end ended up being a huge blessing, because a year later we don't miss, so we literally, probably I'd say a third of the house went. And we literally had to repaint every wall, every closet, every ceiling. And God just kind of blessed us and through this process of just giving us more space, and which translates also headspace. But the great thing too is that we didn't have to do this whole big project alone.
Yeah, the process, it was like having a fire without the flames. Everything, it was just, it spread. It was, and we had to take a deep breath going, what are we going to do about this? What professional can we find that's going to do we just burn the house down literally and start over? And that's where but it was the process, as Julie just alluded to. Matt and Sarah Davison, Mary's son, one of my best friends, they were up for the summer, and they usually, it's like finding where's Waldo. You don't know where Matt's going to be. You got to kind of locate him, traveling. And he just happened to be in Maine with his truck. And I have 2 things that I kind of live by. I have a little mantra of intent, what's the end result intent, and how are you going to approach it? So, all right, we have this mold problem. What are we going to do? And where's God going to be in, and where is he going to be in this whole thing? Well, there was a day, a sunny day in the summer. Matt brought all his tools. He had his truck, and we were outside cutting and wood and painting and getting the trim ready. And Julie was inside with Sarah, laughing and reminiscing. So, in the process of this disaster, if you will, we praised God in it. It was glory, but there was glory there because we were fellowshipping with a guy I don't normally see a lot, and he just perfect timing. He was right there at the right time, and then Julie's sister, her best friend, who now just recently moved to Ohio. We had two Matts. Our Matt, I'll share him, and Julie's brother-in-law, Matt, carpentry, and they just went right through the house, and we were on the other side of it like that. It was really impressive how God worked in cleaning this up. So that is a huge praise and getting over an obstacle and giving God glory when we got mold in our house.
Yeah. That's daunting.
We're old. We're in that 50-plus group, so we needed a lot of help.
Yeah. Yeah. Share anything else, you guys? If there's anything else you guys want to share on that end that 2024 brought for you.
I think for me, I know Bernie shared a little bit about the coming to the vineyard by himself, and just to follow up a little bit with that, I think for me, I learned kind of through that process that, in short, obedience is better than sacrifice. So I think, Bernie's really quickly, felt confirmed that this was where we needed to be. And I was having a hard time. I didn't want to kind of leave people in the lurch, and I could go on about the details of that. But I think in the end, don't think more highly of yourself, I guess. And God's got it. I mean, I didn't want to leave somebody kind of with the whole responsibility, but God ended up, we're still in contact with the church, and ended up building this whole team that, just you don't know, you think you're helping out, right? But in the end, I think I learned just obedience is better than sacrifice. And a little bit of delayed obedience. So thank you for your patience.
Well, again, on intent and approach backwards, her intent was, hey, for those who remember our first round here, Johanna Mackin used to say mantles. So anytime there was a change in what you were going to do here at the church or whatever, you want to pass the mantle on. So in her good nature, instead of a month, 2 weeks, 3 months, Julie went a whole year. So now you can put the piece together every time I was coming through by myself. Everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. She'll be here shortly. But Julie just decided to hang on to that mantle just to make sure. That was her intent. And I think when she announced at one of the meetings, she's like, I'm going to my final date is this, and they're like, well, duh. So there were no tears or anything. She's crying. She's like, there was no shock or surprise. But good intention is just to leave it. But as soon, like Paul said earlier, as soon as you get out of the way, God can work and bring up a team. So, and then she joined us.
Yeah, so final question, just how, and you guys have already kind of alluded to this already in your answers, just how has God shown himself to be faithful to you guys in this year? Share a little bit about maybe your relationship with God, how that's been strengthened over the year through these both celebrations and struggles of 2024. Just share briefly about that aspect of your life, both together as a married couple and your relationship with Christ.
As I said earlier, I want to be outright honest, so hold me accountable. I'm, as you know, a little dramatic and theatrical, to say the least. And I could, back in that first round or that season, I got really good at coming in, hey, how are you? And going home and wanting to drop into a hole and then come back, hey. So double-minded to the full extent of that, and there was really no authentic genuineness to it. And coming back, like I said, the hardest part of that was turning the car in a different direction, walking like a zombie in here, hoping God would first empty myself and deny myself, take up my cross yet again, and have God fill me with fresh, new stuff that I can't even aware of. To be, and like I said, I told Chris and I told you and a few others in that first few days, I just want to be as my honest self. I can have a bad day. I can come in tears. I can come not having a good day, and just be in front of family, and grab a hug from Marvin, or just pull someone aside and go for a coffee. So for a guy who really knows how to put on a really bright, big mask, to just rip that off, and if this connects to you, I encourage you as well. I just want to be authentic we're kind of empty nesters now, minus the cats. And I was very happy, and I'm going to end with this so you can kind of wrap it. I was very happy to see Julie. She's a little bit more reserved, but she's got so much to offer, and it's my responsibility as a husband to make sure my wife and my kids, maybe my cats, get spiritually filled and feeding them truth, and when she came up, when you offered her to judge the cookies, and she did that, and then follow up. I was never so happy to see her when she was leading communion. So this coming year, I want to continue to push forward the authenticity and honesty of a guy who can smile with a mask, but sometimes needs just a hug and a good cry. So back and forth. Thank you. Thank you. There you go, Julie. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, 2024 was, I think, kind of God just making space in my life. I think kind of what was going on, I don't know if you've ever had this, but literally what was going on in the physical realm with our house and letting go of the past was kind of going on. Was kind of going on inside. And so I'm looking forward to 2025. God is physically made more room in our home, but I think more importantly, he has made more room in our lives and in our heart for him first and foremost, for relationships. And I'm excited to see God has already given us a huge opportunity down the road. So I can see why God has been kind of decluttering not only our house, but our hearts and our lives kind of for this new phase, new journey.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Round of applause for these guys. Great stories. Great stories, great testimonies. Thanks, Julie. All right. So you guys stick around. We're going to pray for you guys in a minute. So we're going to have our next interview come on up. So you guys take a seat for a sec. And we'll have Mary come up. So, Mary Davison.
My son's best friend. Yes. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Are you good?
I am.
Yeah? Can you guys hear me? Okay, yeah. Good.
No, I
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I can be serious. Is this on?
Yeah, you're
I
good.
can be serious. I'm not always.
I don't know about that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We need the jokers and the laughers and the not so serious people in our church family.
Okay.
Because most of us take one another too seriously, and you definitely don't. So that's good.
Yeah.
You definitely don't take me seriously, ever. I always looking to crack a joke when I'm like trying to like do something important up here.
Yeah. He's trying to set me up for failure. No.
Never.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
All right. Yeah. I think
All right. So give everybody just a
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Who are you?
Who am I?
Who are you? Where are you from?
I don't know who I am. No, I'm in that, way up there.
You're in the elevated
I'm
status.
in the elevated, 50 on keep going.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I was like, I'm almost in that last category, that gym. I'm like, that's not good. But anyway,
Well,
we don't have to go there, but
a mutual friend of ours who's the same age as I am told me that we have about 10 more years.
yeah.
And I went, ooh, I've got to have a lot to do.
You got longer than that.
No.
We got longer than that.
Anyway,
So just share, who you
okay.
are, where you're at right now, and some things that
Okay.
are happening in your life.
Well, as you know, I'm Mary Davidson. I live in Falmouth right now. I'm originally, there's my name up there.
Yeah,
Oh, excuse me.
there you go.
Ooh. Not in lights in Hollywood, but it's
Close enough. Close enough.
Anyway,
That's the next step.
maybe to do volunteer work
Yeah.
for Americans First. I'm originally from the Pacific Northwest. I was born and raised in the Seattle area, and how I ended up here is a long story. So I won't go into detail about that, but I was involved with the Vineyard years ago when the Vineyard was over off of used to be Exit 8, right there off Warren Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, Winfield, and then I was involved with the drama ministry there with Strout, Lois Sturdivant, and Carmen. And so very involved with the Vineyard there. And then at the time I had my mother living with me, and we moved to Lewiston, Auburn, my son Matthew, and daughter-in-law had an apartment in Auburn. So we lived, they bought a house and we had an in-law apartment in there. So we lived in that and attended Pathway. So I've also attended Pathway Vineyard. And then throughout the years and different changes, I was going back and forth to the Seattle area. My sister had lung cancer. So I was going back and forth between here and Seattle to be with my sister and to help take care of her. But then when I came back to Maine and settled, I ended up back here at the Vineyard back
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
So
And-
that's it that's a real nutshell.
Tiny nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have been just an amazing addition to this church family.
Oh,
so
thank
amazing.
you.
So amazing.
Mm,
You serve in so many wonderful ways. And
it's my pleasure.
yeah,
Yeah.
we love you.
I
we
love
love
you
you.
guys too.
So share with us, like with Bernie and Julie, start off with something that you got to celebrate in 2024. What did 2024 bring you for like an amazing moment that you can share with us?
I think the most amazing moment, there were a few, but the most amazing, and I know you as out there that are grandparents, my youngest grandson, Connor, was married, and he and his bride they're precious. They love the Lord, and it was just a real precious ceremony, honoring the Lord, the entire thing. And what I was thinking when I went down is when Matthew and Sarah were still working, I took care of all the kids. They have 4 children. So I took care of them all, and we would run around the house singing, "Mercy is falling on me." I won't go any further because my voice is
You
not.
can sing in it if you want.
Yeah, and and we would run back and
We
forth.
could do a duet together.
Oh,
We would be
let's
great.
go. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, what key do you sing in?
Oh, I don't have a key.
Yeah, me either.
I don't have a key.
Yeah, me either. Anyway.
No key. And they would just, "Mammy, we love Jesus," and they're running around. And it's such a joyous time because you're nurturing them in the things of the Lord. And then they hit a certain age, and they're on their own as far as their relationship. And they go through things, and it's hard because you're with them when they're little and everything's great and you're having fun, but then you see them struggling and what they're going through. So for Connor marrying Laura, it was so fulfilling for me to know that what you sow into their lives, you see it. You see that come back. And they are precious. They stay in touch with me all the time and, tell me how much they love me. And it's precious. So I want to say to you, any of you that are grandparents, and maybe some of you are raising your grandchildren, or you have a real integral part, everything you sow into their lives, that will come back, and it will bless your heart. It really, really will. So that, and then also serving with Samaritan's Purse while I went down for the wedding in North Carolina. I went to Boone, North Carolina, which is where Samaritan's Purse headquarters is, and I did some disaster relief, which has been a dream for a long time, to do some type of service with Samaritan's Purse. I'd like to get on the medical team and be doing something there, but right now it's involved with disaster relief. So I did that while I was down there, and it's wonderful. It was such a blessing. I'd like to do more. They do need people in California now, but that's a little too far for me right now. So that was a real blessing. Yes.
Yeah, so share a little bit more about how that came to be and sort of the effect that experience had on you.
Well, it came to be in that I've had a desire to and the last time I was down in North Carolina, Matthew and Sarah, my son and daughter-in-law, live in Fancy Gap, Virginia, and the rest of the grandchildren, except for one who's up in Turner, live in North Carolina. So I had gone down to visit, and when I was visiting, I went through Boone and Wilkesboro, which is where their disaster relief center is, and then Matthew took me out to the airport where they load up the planes to head out, and the one that goes overseas with their hospital. So I went in and I had an interview, and I asked, how can I be involved? And they said, well, right now we have so many people that want to be involved, but we can always use volunteers. So that's when I signed up, got on the volunteer list, and then they sent out emails when things happened in North Carolina. So you could sign up to be a volunteer to go in and help with disaster relief, which we did. We'd go in, helping people clean up their homes, clean up their yards, remove all the debris. And this one young gentleman in particular, he was a youth pastor at Appalachian State College, which is in Boone. And he was trying to do that, take care of his family, and clean up the mess in his downstairs, his basement, and out in the yard. And we came in, we go in as teams of 25, and we did the whole house, the whole downstairs, the yard, everything. And then we pray with the homeowner before we leave. And he broke down. He said, "You don't know what this has done for me. I've been trying to do this and minister to the youth and take care of my family, and I just haven't had the time." So we saw that over and over again with elderly people that couldn't get out for weeks, and we would go in and clear everything out of their driveways, their yard. We'd clean their roofs off, clean the gutters, and leave the whole, as Jesus would do, just really minister. And then the chaplains for Billy Graham's go in and minister to them after the whole team, the cleanup team, leaves. So that was wonderful. Yeah.
That's so good. Share a little bit about 2024 and some of the difficulties. Something that was difficult for you, something that was a struggle for you, that maybe took you by surprise or was unexpected, or just share a little bit about that. What affected you that was difficult in the year?
I think there were a few things, but the primary would be the loss of a very, very dear friend, and that came very suddenly. From the time she was diagnosed, she wasn't feeling well, but when she went in to Maine Med and was diagnosed, from the time of her being diagnosed to when she passed was a little over 2 weeks. And I had the privilege of helping with her end-stage care. Her sister flew out from North Dakota, and between the two of us, we would stay up. One of us would be with her at all times. And Janice was someone who, it's hard to put into words. She knew that I loved adventure, and she was always looking for ways to help me in that. And I worked at Mercy and Maine Med, and when I retired from there, I said, I want to do some fun things. So I thought, well, I'll go to the airport, and I'll work in security. At least I can see people coming and going if I'm not, actually getting on a plane. And Janice prayed. She said, oh, well, maybe the Lord's in that one. We'll see. So she went with me to the interview, and I got the job. And so I worked there for a little over a year, and I was saying to her, Janice, this just isn't fun. And she said, well, Mary, it's security. And I said, yeah, but I want to ask people, how was your trip, whatever. Well, you just don't do that, You're scanning their luggage, and you just, how was your trip, So that didn't work.
Yeah, I don't think that would work for your personality.
No, it didn't at all. So then after that, I applied to be a motor coach tour guide. And Janice said, well, yeah. So we prayed, and I did, and she even went on some tours with me, and she said, yeah, this is real good. Until we had to go to New York City and to take a motor coach tour group to the Rockettes at Christmas. Well, there's 52 people, and you have to keep track of all of them. And in New York, you only have very little time to pull the bus up because you have to keep things moving, and I had to get everybody on. Well, a few people didn't make it, and anyway, it was very tense. That wasn't me either.
That's not you either. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then the last thing was, I said, how about Trader Joe's?
Yeah. That's an
Yeah.
adventure.
I mean, they're always having fun in there. Yoo-hoo. She goes, okay, all right, we'll pray about that one. And so I did. I worked at Trader Joe's. Yeah, you do have some fun, but it is hard work. I had to be there at 5 in the morning, and we help unload the trucks, and then we put out all the merchandise, and then we clean the store, and we get it all ready. So that wasn't fun. But but she just knew how to come alongside me in those and to pray, and so I really enjoyed that in our friendship. So it was difficult to walk through her last 2 weeks, but yet I was so overjoyed because she's free and she's with the Lord. And I told her, I whispered in her ear, I said, you know what? I said, I am mad at you because you're going to get there before I do. And she goes,
Yeah.
So anyway.
So just tell us, last question.
Yes.
How did, with Bernie and Julie, how did
Yeah.
God just kind of show His faithfulness to you and just kind of lead you and be your strength in all of this? How did He meet you in 2024? Is there anything specific that you could speak to?
Well, in thinking about that, in 2023, I went through and into 2024 severe anxiety. It came out of nowhere and difficult to understand. And there are women in the church here who have experienced a similar situation, which they prayed for me. They would call me. They would check up on me. They wouldn't just call and leave it at that. They go, okay, what are you doing? Are you isolated? Come over to my house. I'll pray for you. And they helped in walking me through that. It was a really difficult time. I've never had anything like that in my life. And I care not to again. And so the body was very important in walking through that and coming through to the other side. It was crucial. So I want to, and it allowed me to, like as Bernie said, just be real. This is what I'm going through. And sometimes as a Christian, you think, well, I shouldn't have this. I shouldn't be going through this. But I was. The reality is, I was, and it really affected my life. So I'm so thankful for the body and for people that came alongside and said, this is what I'm doing, this is, and it helped me to know how to navigate something that I just didn't know what to do with. So Amen.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That was it. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for your sharing. Thank
We
you so
did it.
much for being able to share with us
Shall
a
we
little
do
bit.
Mercy is Falling now?
Wanna?
Yeah, let's go.
No, I can't do that. See, she would actually do it. And I'm just like kidding. Thank you so much, Mary. Everyone, give Mary a round of applause. Stay up here. Stay up here. Brent and Julie, I want you guys.